There are usually 2 or 3 stages between the Alps and the Pyrenees whose sole function is to help the race get from one to the other. Not this year. Stage 12 was a test in its own right, finishing with a short but vicious climb up to the aerodrome at Monte.
Believe it or not, there's an outside chance that the 2010 Tour de France could be won or lost on just a 3-kilometre climb. This one, to be precise, the monte jalabert. It's narrow, twisty, and has an average gradient of more than 10%. Alberto Contador knows it well. He's won here twice before in Paris-Nice, the most recent time just this spring, where he rode everybody off his wheel. The key to this challenge, though, is as much about what happens before it as what happens on it. Arrive at the foot of this climb poorly placed, and it could spell disaster, because there's literally no time or space to rectify any mistakes. Saxo Bank worked perfectly in the crosswinds yesterday to give Andy Schleck a smooth ride to the finish. Contador, however, was pretty much left to fend for himself. If the Spaniard can start this climb with Andy Schleck, then we'll be in for a battle royale. But if Contador finds himself poorly positioned again, then you can bet the Saxo Bank rider will try to exploit the opportunity. Yes, no matter what happens in the race today, you can pretty much guarantee all the contenders are going to struggle up here, as I am.
We've just entered now the town of Mende. We're heading into the narrow streets with the 4 leaders, but we are less than a minute spread across the board now. These 4 leaders are now trying to get up to the front. The remnant of the breakaway is about to be swept up by the peloton in the distance, and we're coming into a very narrow town with some tricky turns before we get onto the climb itself.
It's going to be a bit chaotic when the main field catches that 12-man chasing group, because they'll have to keep themselves organised. They want to go by them as quickly as possible. And this is Jaroslav Popovic, who's come up now, looking over his shoulders. He wants to make sure that Levi Leipheimer is well placed at the start of the climb, but he's lost him. He's looking back saying, Levi, where are you? Confident or not, he has to start at the front. It is imperative to start this climb right at the front.
And these are the 4 leaders. Now that's one of the left turns there now. And as we get round the next corner, it really does start to get very, very steep indeed. The right turn now, we're on the final climb here, and already Hejjedal is in trouble. The cameras don't really show you how steep these roads are. We go right up the trees in front in a rather terrifying, hair-pinning series of climbs. And Hejjedal, he's done a lot of work today, Paul, he's paying.
Well, he's paid the price there, and this at the front is Alessandro Patacchi doing the pacemaking, and this is a bit of a shock to me. Also notice Andreas Kloden was in difficulty here, number 24. He can't stay in contact with Kirienka just up the front there, and Alexander Vinokourov, but I think that's all going to be secondary, because they'll all be present with the main field very shortly.
Well, there is the move. Kirienka, so narrowly beaten the other day by Paulinho, has now got rid of everybody except the little limpet himself, Alexander Vinokourov. He is going to try and ride. These 2 I don't think will be caught, but I shouldn't say that at 32 seconds, because it is quite possible now. The Norwegian flags fly. I can't believe Patacchi, well, he isn't. He just cracked.
No, he hasn't. He's brought this man, Damiano Cunego, to the front of the bunch. He was thinking about the Petit Prince, the little man from Italy, to try and get a finish for him. This is an ideal finish for a guy like Cunego. If he can stay in contact here, he's got the kind of sprint to finish it off. Kirienka and Vinokourov are locked together on the slopes of this climb. You get an idea now, Phil, to see just how steep this climb is. In these corners, it's not 11%, it's closer to 13%, especially on the inside of the bend.
And the crowd are appreciating this at the arrival of the Tour de France here. They put the airport on a plateau overlooking the town, 1,400 feet above it. And Lance Armstrong, no reason to race for big time now. His tour is done as far as overall is concerned, saving his energy for another day when maybe he'll go hunting for the stage. Vinokourov has shed Kirienka. When you look over your shoulder, you're cooked, and Kirienka looked over his shoulder. So now Alexander Vinokourov is free to fly, hot to trot, a stage win on the horizon.
Luis Leon Sanchez, 161. Nicholas Roach, number 81. Bradley Wiggins, number 31. The big names, Phil, they're all coming to the back.
Well, this is really a shame for Team Sky, but they are not really in this race at the moment. Wiggins is now in big trouble once again. The pressure put on him, I think, to try and win the Tour has just exploded his legs completely. He's lost his morale.
Well, Carlos Sastre was right at the back end of that group. Joaquim Rodriguez is over there. He's looking very dangerous, and he's a man who knows how to perform well on the slopes of a climb like this. This is the man that everybody thought might have a crack today, number 91, Carlos Sastre. Robert Gessing is in the group in the white jersey.
Here's Alberto Contador, still riding alongside now, still looking good, gazing around, almost stargazing there as he sits on the side of the yellow jersey. These two boys, Paul, seem to be just riding the mountain and they're not attacking.
Well, I think Alberto Contador's not going to make a move here this afternoon because of the fact that he's got Alexander Vinokourov in the front. He won't make a move to try and damage the possibility of getting a stage victory for Team Astana. Check that for a face of pain. This man now has got to do all kinds of things to pull himself inside out. Andreas Kloden is still surviving off the front end of the main field. He's about to make contact here with Vasily Kirienka, and will he go straight by him? I think he might.
Well, if he can get straight by him, of course, they might well steal the team lead because Radio Shack and Case Depon are almost equal on time, and it could well be a reversal of that as we now see an attack by Katusha.
Joaquim Rodriguez, this is the man who's got a very good chance of getting the victory. This is his kind of climb. And Phil, he's far enough down, I think, for them to let him go. They don't need to respond. He started the day in 9th position overall.
Well, a typical man for the move indeed, Joaquim Rodriguez. But look at this, Contador has gone, and he's a little bit slow to react here. Well, everything Paul was just saying, completely reversed. Contador has gone, and now we expect a reaction here from Andy Schleck. If he loses time on this climb to Contador, I think he'll lose the Tour.
Well, Andy Schleck has just sat down in the saddle. He tried the acceleration to get across. He's leapt across to Joaquim Rodriguez here, looking over his shoulder. He's got the face of concentration. He's around about 500 or 600 meters to the top of the climb. He's catching all of the riders in front of him. There's Kirienka. There is Andreas Kloden, and he's going to go again, the man who wears number 1.
Well, Rodriguez needs to jump onto the train of Contador here because they're coming towards the summit of the climb, but there's still a little bit of a slope left. And this is a surprise. I never thought we'd see Andy Schleck not react to that. I'm not so sure he can, but there's still time. Look at Jurgen van den Broek.
Jurgen van den Broek, 101, the leader of Omega Pharma Lotto, knows that he's got a chance here of pulling himself up into 3rd place overall at the end of the day. But you know what? Andy Schleck has not given up the ghost just yet. 2 kilometers to go to the finish, but it's only about a kilometer to go to the top. And we kind of forgotten, hadn't we? Alexander Vinokourov is still surviving by 19 seconds ahead of Kloden Kirienka, but it's now been changed to Contador Joaquim Rodriguez.
Well, in the times we've come here and seen people like Laurent Jalabert, when we never saw crowds like this, they are enormous. The Tour de France continues to grow in popularity, and look at the catches coming. He's come right up to him. So now Contador has been joined by Vinokourov and Rodriguez. These boys are dancing away from the peloton, and very soon it'll level out.
Vinokourov is doing everything he can now to find a bit of extra energy, while further down the slope Andy Schleck is doing exactly the same thing. At the start of the day, Phil, he had a 41-second advantage over Alberto Contador. He's losing a little bit of that just now.
But you know, 41 seconds can be out the window in a matter of a kilometre. Andy Schleck has got to get deep, deep down into that pain threshold.
Right on his wheel, Jurgen van den Broek. Sammy Sanchez was there as well. They're just about to crest the top of the climb here. I've got a funny feeling, you know, we may well get a victory by Joaquim Rodriguez here because there's no reason for Alberto Contador to win. He might need some allies a little bit further down in the road.
Once they level, they'll turn left onto the runway, and at the speed they're going, there's a very good chance they're going to take off.
Well, they need to take off because this runway here looks like an aircraft carrier. Alberto Contador looking back over his shoulders to see what time of gap he's got. But Andy Schleck has not given up yet, Phil. He's going to fight all the way to the finish. Just in front of him there is Alexander Vinokourov.
They are over the top of the climb. It's now eyes down for the flat ride to the finishing line here. Time trialing might be the strength of Contador. It's not of Andy Schleck. Rodriguez knows that Contador is racing for time, yet he's still going to help him.
Well, he's shaking his head a bit. I'm sure that Joaquim Rodriguez will do whatever he can to work with his compatriot there at the front end of the main field. He realizes Contador needs time, and Joaquim Rodriguez wants a stage victory out of this. There's some pretty serious men in this group too, because not only in that group was the Jurgen van den Broek, but also in the group just sitting on the back was Sammy Sanchez and Denny Menchov.
Well, this little select group here is contain the white jersey there of Gessing and Leipheimer, but this is the race now. The clock will start as soon as we swing onto the runway. There's the runway. We are now taxiing for the finishing line here, all the way up the road into a headwind. And Alberto Contador keeps looking at Rodriguez. Rodriguez has no reason to hit him. He's going to follow him and try and beat him in the sprint. And he can sprint, Rodriguez.
Well, he's a great sprinter. I've seen him win stages in Paris-Nice. He's onto the wheel of Contador. Contador actually wants this win, and they've both opened up the sprint.
Opened up to go. Now Rodriguez is going for the win here, but is Contador going for yellow? Little look over his shoulder. Rodriguez gets the victory. Alberto Contador is in second place here. And Vinokurov a little upset with third place. The time will not be enough though. Van der Broek comes home with the maillot jaune, but Contador has taken back about 11 seconds.
Well, the race computer decided it was 10 in the end, exactly the advantage that Andy Schleck had gained over Contador in the Alps. So all square on climbing attacks, and the gap between them restored to the 31 seconds it had been all the way back on stage 3. Behind them, Luis Leon Sanchez slipped out of the top 8, replaced by the stage winner, Joaquin Rodriguez. Otherwise, no change of significance. The first time that Schleck had been put under any real pressure by Alberto Contador, rather than the other way round.
Este monte se me da muy bien, la verdad que hoy las sensaciones han sido muy buenas, he probado bastante tarde porque tampoco sabía cómo estaba Andy, he visto que yo creo que flaqueaba un poco, entonces he decidido probar en la parte final. Y bueno, pues mira, he podido picar unos segunditos y bueno, sobre todo pues que físicamente cada día me encuentro mejor y eso es una buena señal de cara a los Pirineos.